Just imagine that your partner or spouse, after years into the relationship, develops an addiction to drugs. What would you do and how would you respond? Would you still love them? Would that love be unconditional? Well, I'm going to share a story with you about Jennifer and her husband who went through just such a challenge. And I'll share with you also how they overcame that adversity and were able to come out on the other end even stronger as a couple. Jennifer and John met in college and found an immediate attraction to each other. Not just physical, but it also had a value system that was very closely aligned with each other. And they became best friends with each other through school, and they were inseparable. After school ended, they decided they would remain together because they felt that they were a couple that were meant to be for the rest of their lives. So they decided to get married and began a family. They had 2 children, they got their house, they had 2 cars, and they both pursued their individual careers. Years into the relationship, John had a serious auto accident that put him in the hospital for a couple of weeks. He had multiple injuries, and it was pretty serious. The family was steadfast on staying together and overcoming this challenge and doing whatever it was going to take. Jennifer said that she would work and help him to overcome this, and that whatever they had to do, they would do together. John, while he was in the hospital, was put on a pain management system in order to help him with his acute pain from his injuries, his multiple injuries. When John returned home from the hospital, he remained on the pain management medication system, and he and his wife worked together as he went through his rehabilitation. His employer allowed him to work from home, so this gave him the opportunity to work on himself as he moved forward on his journey. A couple of months into the rehabilitation, John's doctor reached out to him because he was concerned about the level of amount of medication that John was still taking. He had inquired because he saw that the prescription had actually increased the volume of what he was taking from even when he was in the hospital. John reported back that he was still having challenges with pain and that this was helping him. Now, at this point, John was dependent physically on the medication, a physiology that happens no matter who you are. If you're dealing with a medication like this for a couple of months, you're going to physically become dependent on that medication. But John actually began to obsess about it, thinking that he was having not only just the pain, but that this was helping him and that he was starting to feel better, and he only felt better when he was taking the medication. After a period of time, John's doctor decided he was going to start weaning him off the medication against John stating that he still felt pain. The doctor felt that John would be okay, and as he started weaning him off, John got a bit nervous about this because he was starting to obsess about the medication. So John looked for alternative ways to get that medication. John researched to find out where he could buy it illegally and be able to continue the medication. Now, Jennifer believed that John had stopped taking the medication because she has followed with the treatment with the doctor as well and did not know that he was still interested or even remotely taking this medication any longer. And now John was actually purchasing these pills off the street illicitly on a daily basis. Jennifer began to notice that he was starting to change. He was becoming a little bit more withdrawn. He was getting a little bit more paranoid, but he was also very sluggish and did not present as he always did in the past. Jennifer, being concerned, and confronted him, and then he stated that he was fine. It was just part of the rehabilitation and from the injuries of the accident, and that he would get better. Jennifer believed him, and they continued to go on with the relationship, and John then decided to start cutting back on his work and only working part-time from home. This started putting a financial burden on the family and including on Jennifer, who was working full-time, and it created some challenges within the family. Upon John coming home one night, Jennifer took his coat and hung it up and found a bottle of pills that did not have any names on it in his pocket. She confronted him about it, and he said, he just took some pills that he got from a friend that was still helping him with some of the acute pain that he was still dealing with from time to time. Jennifer was very alarmed by this because she knew that the two were always open and honest with each other, and this was not indicative of his behavior as a couple with them together. So she confronted him, really saying, "Are you having any challenges with this?" and that she was nervous and scared. John reassured her that he was okay and that this is just a little bit of a process that he's going through, but that he would be better and everything would be okay. Jennifer reached out to me, and I sat down with her, and after understanding the story of what had happened, I explained to Jennifer how the process works with opioids, where you become using the medication for a tool and assisting you to remove pain, and then after a period of time that the body becomes dependent on that medication itself, And during John's transition, he absolutely became dependent on it. And then I explained to her that then there becomes a mental obsession if somebody really feels that they're not only just benefiting it from a pain level, but that it's actually doing something else for them. Then that's where the addiction starts to kick in, where he can't stop because he's got a mental obsession about it now too as well. I did sit down with John and Jennifer, and John denied having any challenges with addiction, but did say he did buy some pills from some friends, as he said, and that he used those from time to time only when he felt like he had an acute issue with pain. I explained to John what happens in the process of addiction. I said, if you anything at all, just at least be honest with your wife about what's going on and move forward. So some weeks went by, and then Jennifer reached back out to me and then reported that John was actually getting worse. He was now starting to lose some work time, and he was not showing up or doing the work he was supposed to be doing, and that his employer had reached out to him and was concerned. This was also creating a little bit of an additional financial pressure on the family, and Jennifer, who was still working full-time, became very concerned about this. I sat down once again with Jennifer and John, and at this point I explained to John that it was pretty much understood that you really seemed to be having a challenge with this. And then he came forward and said that he was, and he couldn't stop using, and that he had been consistently using since the doctor had taken him off. But he said that he was able to stop on his own because he was a very strong-willed person, and that he never had a challenge with addiction because either him nor Jennifer knew anything about addiction, and they decided that they were going to work together and fight through this. I shared my concerns with the two of them because I stated that when John crossed over into this abuse, into addiction, that the challenges are going to be very, very real for him to stop because he would have to deal with withdrawal, and that would be an extremely uncomfortable and painful issue to have to deal with, and that I felt that he would benefit from a treatment program. Jennifer reached back out to me because she was concerned because things were getting a little bit more difficult. John was cutting back on his work, and his employer actually reached out to her, inquiring what was going on. He was missing work, and thus was also being financially impacted. Now, Jennifer was working full-time and realized that this was going to have a burden on her and the family financially. So she asked me what to do, and we sat down and had another discussion with John. And at this point, John said that he still could control this problem and that he'd be okay, but that he was still taking what he needed to take because he really felt that he needed it. And it was at this true point that John was truly addicted to the opioids. So Jennifer and I sat down and we discussed a plan in place. And that plan included setting up absolute boundaries that included Jennifer taking care of the financials, being aware of that John could not get high or be high around the children, that he could not drive the vehicle if he was even remotely exhibiting any intoxication at all from any medication at all, and most importantly, that he would remain honest with Jennifer regarding the time that he was still using these, and then if he needed additional help, that he would absolutely reach out. A little time went on, and Jennifer was very steadfast in following through with these boundaries. John did try to take money out of the bank. Jennifer was able to intercede, and then John realized at this point that he did not have the freedom and flexibility to do what he was doing before regarding getting the drugs. So it was at this point that John realized he needed help and decided that he would do whatever it was that suggested. So Jennifer brought me back in, and we were able to get him assessed and get him into a treatment program. Jennifer never gave up on him and stayed strong with him right through the process, but also very much so got to understand what addiction was, specifically opioid addiction, and how it can impact anybody in their lives at any time in their lives. She also was not only aware of this, but she also knew what she had to do to protect her family, to protect her children, to protect their house and their well-being across the board, still being and maintaining her relationship with John and loving him. She was not in any safety challenges whatsoever because of the fact that she put these boundaries in place right off the bat, and it was able to maintain that. When John returned home, he began a brand new journey. His recovery also enlightened him to some other challenges that he was facing, and he felt that he was possibly taking the drugs to help cover up with. And he began to get some help for that as well, and this changed their relationship, increasing a closeness to it as well. So the real challenge here is not so much the addiction, but it's how do you handle it and how do you respond to somebody that you love and care for that's dealing with an addiction. And the real truth is that there's no one size fits all, and it's not an easy solution. But if your value systems are aligned, meaning that you have very similar values, in their case, they were very strong into their family and the relationship with each other and honesty, even though John was dishonest for a period of time during that relationship. They both valued the integrity of each other, to be honest with each other. And it was that aligned value system that allowed them to continue to stay together and also grow even through this addiction. So if you or your loved one are struggling with an addiction, please know that there is hope. Please do not give up on them, but if there is some challenges, that there are some boundaries you're going to need to put in place in order to protect yourself and to protect your family as that struggling individual works their way through possibly and hopefully getting into treatment and the help that they need. If you found value at all in this video, could you please consider subscribing to our channel? It would benefit us greatly because it will allow us to help keep pushing this message out to others and allow us to continue to develop our content, which we're offering for free. I would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to take a moment to review this content. I hope again that you found benefits in it, and please know that addiction is a real challenge, but that you do have tools and resources that can help you overcome this challenge. Again, my name is Bernie from Tiger Resilience, where we do offer addiction solutions for friends and family members so that you can help and assist a loved one who is struggling with addiction, and so that you and your family members can each reach your own human potential and overcome the barriers of addiction. Again, thank you for your time with reviewing this video, and I wish you nothing but the best on your journey today.